So here we have the Pusherman A/B switches module. Let's check out a bit of what's to come before we get into it. Now the A/B switches is a super simple passive module, but that means there's no buffering, no active circuit, just passive ins, outs and switches. But utilities really are great. They're kind of the king of Eurorack and what takes it way beyond basic kind of pre-wired or even most of the semi-modular synths. The utilities really bring things to life. Now the A/B switches will take an input and route it to output A or B depending on the switch position. Or it will take an A and a B input and route it to the output, depending on the switch position. So it's 1 in to 2 outs that you can switch between, or 2 ins routed to the same out. Now there's 6 channels, they're all the same, 6 ins, 6 A and Bs, 6 switches. Let's get into a patch using all 6 channels, because I've made a really performable patch with 2 voices and some effects and plenty of routing for pitch, gates, modulation, the whole works. Let's dive in. So here's just one big patch to demonstrate the Pusherman A/B switches and why utilities like this are super ace. So I'm going to mute everything out, but I'll just quickly play around first. So, muting everything out. The drums are just completely backing the whole thing and completely secondary to the switches. Now the first patch is these fabric cables, the top 3 channels on the A/B switches, and I can switch from 2 volt per octave sequences, so an input A and an input B on these red cables, 2 different pitch sequences. And then the output comes down into my oscillator. Now I have the gates from these patterns on the blue cables, so I can play this sequence A with its gate sequence, or take the gate sequence from the B input, which is actually from this B sequence. So decoupling those gates give me more interesting ways to play with the pitch and gates off of each other. And it's a nice way to transition between the 2 as well. These 2 inputs on the 3rd channel give me either an envelope triggered by that gate pattern or an LFO into my filter. Now the next lot of cables are from this sound, and I have sound routed into this channel here, and I can choose to route B, which is actually nothing, to the output, or the volt per octave sequence. And with a bit of external routing, this is based on this top section as well, meaning the 2 sounds play the same sequence, or the second voice panned slightly right, just drones. I've also got some sequenced modulation into here that I can route to wave position in different ways on my wavetable oscillator. So they're the 2 things I control on this voice, whether it gets the pitch sequence or not, and where this sequenced modulation goes. Now I have a send set up on my mixer that's mainly this sound that you can hear feeding it, but there's a slight blend of the other sound as well. That's coming into the bottom channel, and if I just turn these channels on my mixer, if it comes out of the B output, so an input out of A or B here, rather than an A and a B input feeding a single output on the other channels, it feeds either the delay or the reverb. So just to quickly run through it again with both sounds on, I select my sequence on the top channel, whether the right hand side, the right hand sound rather, tracks that or not. I can pick a gate rhythm to feed my envelope for the sound pan slightly left. I can choose to cut off the volt per octave to that right hand sound. I can route my modulation differently to that sound and choose either reverb or delay. Let's get the drums back in. And I've also got envelopes or LFOs in that third channel for this filter modulation as well. So that's it, a rather short and simple video for the A/B switches from Pusherman. Just a great utility, and other utilities are fantastic too, and it's something I think people often overlook, but it makes this kind of 2-voice patch super playable, really nice, changing the modulation, the effects, the sequencing, the rhythms used. Let's just jam around to play out. Hit like, comment, subscribe, support me on patreon.com/DivKid if you like the work that I do. Share this video with your friends. Cheers for watching.